Hi, this is Erin Payne. We are going to travel forward in time to the 10-year reunion for today's graduating residency class. Welcome to the year 2029. Since we graduated from what was then called Augusta University, a lot has happened. While everyone hoped that new CEO Philip Kuhl would put an end to the expensive name changes and uniform changes, things have only gotten more complicated, as the board insisted on yearly name changes before ultimately settling back to Medical College of Georgia. The board also mandated the adoption of inclusivity uniforms, after certain departments complained that having distinct scrub colors implied that they were inferior to other departments. Under this program, scrubs were assigned in a rainbow of colors by the employee's start date rather than their department, so no one could tell the janitor from a transplant surgeon. Since then, however, Dr. Chris Jones has taken over as CEO and changed everyone's uniform color to beige, which is his favorite color. Once a year, he encourages employees to express themselves by wearing colorful socks underneath their beige scrubs. But anyway, we decided to reminisce and celebrate our 10-year reunion by catching up with some of our former attendings to see what they are up to now that 10 years have passed since our graduation. Let's start with residency leaders, Dr. Schwartz, Reynolds, and McCullum. First up is our department chair, Dr. Schwartz. Oh no, this is very sad. We are terribly sorry to report that Richard Schwartz is no longer with us. We have been told that he met with unfortunate tragedy when he botched an airway for the first time ever, which sadly occurred while he was filming one of his self-intubation videos. May he rest in peace. Hopefully our program director, Brad Reynolds, is doing a little better. Dr. Reynolds originally signed on as interim program director, but due to being unable to find a suitable candidate to lead the residency, is still program director to this day. And this is Dr. Reynolds today. Dan McCullum eventually consumed all of the medical literature that had ever been generated and came to the realization that every evidence-based medical treatment ever invented is inevitably refuted by later, higher quality evidence. Faced with this existential crisis, he stopped practicing medicine and instead started writing and hosting an anti-science podcast, which has become wildly popular. Next, Dr. Victoria Migdal will catch you up with some attendings who have left medicine but found success in other areas since we graduated.
Victoria Migdal here, and I'm going to tell you about several of our attendings who have gone into business and politics over the past decade. Todd Bergbacher had a life-changing moment when he read a resident evaluation complaining that he spent more time on Zillow than he did seeing patients. He realized that he should commit to doing what he really loves, and became one of Zillow's top-selling real estate agents. Although he has had a bad habit of buying several of the listed properties himself, which he uses as extra storage for his collection of car parts and cell phone parts. Taylor Haston moved to Durango, Colorado after marrying her long-term significant other. She found an outdoor apparel company which exclusively sells puffy coats and water bottles. She made enough money to sell the company and retire from emergency medicine, and is now the world's wealthiest whitewater rafting guide. Next, we'll check in with several attendings who have entered politics. First, we have Lou Chimillo, who ran for president after Trump's third term and won by a landslide. He immediately had a Subway and a Chick-fil-A installed in the Oval Office and changed the White House business hours to 5 p.m. to 2 a.m. Every day, he shuts down the entire government by making all of his staff members round as a team through every department in the White House. Chris Fly also entered politics, but as a U.S. Senator. This was after discovering his special talent for filibustering. Philip Kuhl decided to embrace the phrase, "If you can't beat 'em, join 'em," and took a job as director of CMS. In an effort to keep hospital CMOs updated about the latest round of confusing, cost-prohibitive, and clinically questionable core measures, he is now featured in a news feed on the CMS website called Kuhl's Corner. Gina Piazza moved to Washington, D.C., where she earned a name for herself around the State Department for her tireless work reforming the VA, and for her numerous daily emails. To differentiate her from the two other Ginas already working there, she became fondly known as VA Gina. That's enough about politics for now. Next, Dr. Sam Willis will see what's happening with some attendings who have found fame and fortune in the entertainment industry.
Sam Willis here. Some of y'all may know me as Jelly Bean or Judson Alderman. First, let's check in with Dr. Mellick, who left our program midway through residency, but still has a large presence in our hearts and more frequently in our email boxes. Larry Mellick has earned some fairly widespread fame over the past few years due to his Hulu series called Mellick's Medical Musings, which shares tricks of the trade in excruciating detail, awkward patient interviews, and gratuitous video footage of daily life in the emergency department. However, many customers have complained that even though they never subscribe to the show, his episodes are still pushed to their devices on a regular basis and seem impossible to cancel. Despite his newfound fame, Dr. Mellick is still sending frequent educational emails to anyone who has ever attended MCG Emergency Medicine Residency. And yes, this is a real email from Dr. Mellick. He recently revealed that he has set up an indefinite loop of educational emails utilizing a new form of artificial intelligence that will continue posting posthumously for the rest of eternity. After Dr. Mellick's success, Dan Kamenstein, Matt Lyon, and Eric Zavaios took note and have been trying to find unique ways to spread the gospel of ultrasound to every physician in the land. They formed an ultrasound-themed boy band, which was predictably a total flop, with songs like "Oh, the Chambers of My Heart" and "Losing You Feels Like a Bowel Obstruction." After the demise of their musical group, they made an ultrasound-themed video about three sisters who can immediately tell what's wrong with someone using their magical probe. But they can't do anything about it, and everyone they consult wants a formal study anyway. It sold just under 12 copies. Next, we have several attendings who have become famous for things that have nothing to do with medicine. Let's see how they're doing in the year 2029. Jed Ballard has had several unsuccessful runs on various Bachelor franchise shows, including The Bachelorette, his own season of The Bachelor, Bachelor Pad, Bachelor in Paradise, and Bachelor Winter Games. Finally, he did what any self-respecting reality TV star does in order to ride the fame wave for 15 extra minutes, and joined the 37th season of Dancing with the Stars. Lee LaRavia finally admitted to himself what we've known all along, that he only trolls Jed Ballard online because he is jealous. He now practices medicine part-time so that he can dedicate the necessary time to his physique. He keeps up with Jed daily on social media so he can make sure to stay at least as jacked as he is at all times. In his spare time, he moonlights a little as a romance novel cover model. And those guys aren't the only attendings who've earned a bit of fame and fortune since we graduated residency. Oh no, there are plenty others. For example, Jim Wilde made history as the first person to climb Mount Everest with 9 simultaneous acute pulmonary embolisms. When he was later interviewed about his accomplishment, a hapless news reporter made the mistake of asking how he had avoided catching a cold up there, which prompted a 1 hour and 7-minute rant on live television about how a cold is a virus, not something you can catch from cold weather. Mark Lopez announced 2 years ago that he was going undercover for his docuseries Gangs of Augusta. He has not been heard from since. But this man who looks suspiciously like him has been spotted occasionally in Barton Village, also known as O-Dub territory. John McManus surprised everyone when he suddenly appeared in a Bravo reality TV show called The Real McTwins, starring his children, which apparently has been in production in Los Angeles for the last several years. In hindsight, None of the residents have seen him on shift, but they didn't really notice anything was very different. Next, Dr. Judson Alderman, who I'm sure half of you still think is the same person as me, will close out our 2029 attending prophecies, beginning with several attendings who have found themselves incarcerated.
Thanks for the introduction, Sam. I gotta tell you, there's no one I would rather be confused with than you. So for everyone else, I hope you are enjoying what you're seeing and what our attendings are up to in the year 2029. I wish that all I had for you was good news, but unfortunately, these 4 beloved attendings have either been institutionalized or incarcerated. Jennifer Tucker was arrested when she tested positive for methamphetamines and cocaine after she fell asleep at the wheel and crashed. When Dr. Lane confronted her about this, Dr. Tucker said, "Of course I'm on methamphetamines and cocaine. I thought it was obvious. How else did you people think I was working shifts all night and teaching medical students all day?" After getting clean and doing a short stint in prison, she left the ER behind and opened a dog sanctuary. Hartmut Gross became tired of taking reach call and hearing medical students endorse symptoms and decided to leave academia altogether. He became the senior vice president of Genentech and briefly enjoyed perks such as a private jet. Unfortunately, Dr. Gross went down with Genentech 6 months later when they were convicted of a decades-long scheme to manipulate data in regards to the use of TPA for stroke. Becky Abel's crazy driving in the physician response vehicle finally caught up with her when she was arrested and briefly jailed for driving the EMS truck 140 miles per hour with lights and sirens through a neighborhood in a school zone on her way to a haircut. She has returned to work in the ER, though she's no longer allowed to drive the physician response vehicle. James Sinix worked a VA shift in which he had to fill out 4 CT consents and 2 community consults, and then got locked in the emergency department for an extra 5 minutes at the end of his shift due to a fire alarm. He became so distraught that he checked himself into 2G Uptown and even filled out his own Benny Travel. Several of our attendings are still working in medicine, but in areas outside of the emergency department. Let's check in and see what they are up to. Sal Wamsgans developed the Wambulance, a mobile community outreach which performs screening CT angiograms of the chest at community health fairs, nursing homes, and schools. Sissy DeMint has retired from emergency medicine and now runs an oxygen spa called Vitamin O, where wealthy clients pay absurd amounts of money to sit in a room that is supposedly filled with vitamin-infused oxygen. Bo Gedrick is now an orthopedic resident. Emergency medicine attendings frequently see him around the department, but they have noticed that he seems much different now. He tells the emergency medicine residents to hold off on antibiotics for septic joints until the patient goes to the OR the next day. He works out a lot, and he says things like, "We can't admit this patient to the orthopedic service. He has a history of hypertension, and that's a medicine problem." Martin James, Bruce Janiak, and Jimmy Peebles have all at one point or another retired from emergency medicine and moved to Florida. But ultimately, they decided they just can't completely give up teaching residents. Luckily, there have been some major advances in holographic telemedicine over the past decade, allowing all 3 of them to stay in Florida, while still appearing in the emergency department to mentor the residents. All right, that's it, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the attending Prophecies. Let's go ahead and travel back to the year 2019 so we can get on with graduation. Before we do that, a couple things. First, we want to thank Erin Payne for helping put this together. Most of the photoshopping, editing, and ideas came from her. And second, we have a song to share with you all. The lyrics were composed by Erin, and it just helps us reminisce on our time in the emergency department over the last few years.